smile. And I'll let you know when I can see myself. And I hope that I don't get the echo again. I'm not sure why that happened the last time, but we'll make sure that that doesn't happen. It's redirecting us to YouTube. It's redirecting, it looks like. You just go onto YouTube now and make sure we're good to go before we get started here. Sorry, give me one more second. Is anybody on YouTube right now for my team? I'm trying to check it real quick. I don't want to deviate from this page, or
I can hop on right
lose everything.
Checking it out.
So I just want to find our channel. I had the URL code up, so
Like we're working good.
are we good?
Yep.
Awesome. We're good?
Mhm.
Thumbs up. Okay, yay.
Is there anybody on YouTube right now for my team?
Oh, it's doing that again. Okay, hold on one second. Whoever is on YouTube now probably just needs to just click out or mute me on YouTube. Did that work?
Yeah.
Because I don't see myself on it. So I think we're good. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So welcome everyone to our April family meeting. My name is Thea Ramirez. I'm the founder and CEO at Adoption Share, which is the nonprofit organization that creates technology applications to help children achieve permanency through adoption. Here with me are my team members, and Christina, I will introduce you last so you can kick off our call today and introduce our speakers who are so gracious to give us their hour today to discuss a very important topic that we're excited to share with you all about. So here with me, below me on my screen is the wonderful Kimberly Brown. Let me just put you up top as a pin. So ta-da, there you are. Kimberly is the Family Match Director for the state of Georgia. So she helps run our Family Match programs here in the state of Georgia for a pilot program that we've launched. And we're really heartened by our results. And Kimberly, did you want to say a few words for any of our Georgia families watching, just updates or whatnot?
Of course. Thank you, Thea. So in Georgia, we continue to make great progress. Just as Thea mentioned, thus far, we have had 8 matches and 1 official placement. So we are very excited that we have now placed the child in her forever home. Any of my Georgia families who are currently in process, I just want to challenge you to complete your profile so that you guys can move over to our approved category of family. So if I can do anything this week, I would like to challenge you guys to please complete your profile if you are currently in process. And finally, here in Georgia, we just wrapped up our March Matching Madness tournament between the counties, and kudos, congratulations is extended to Catoosa County DFACS. They were our 2022 champions for our March Matching Madness tournament. That's all for Georgia.
Awesome. Thank you, Kimberly. Also with us is our director for the state of Florida and our Family Match program in Florida. So let me replace my pen. Our Florida program is made possible by the very generous support of our strategic partner, the Selfless Love Foundation. So you can look them up at selflesslovefoundation.org to learn more about this really incredible organization.
Thanks, Thea. We are excited to be here, and we are celebrating over 325 adoptions since we started in 2018. So that's a great a number to be celebrating, and a lot of kids going into their forever homes. So we appreciate the support. And we're looking forward to, we just finished up our March Matching Madness as well. And Safe Children's Coalition took home the win this year, and we are so excited for them. We had a total of just 9 matches just this last few weeks. So great things are happening across the state of Florida.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have also joining us today, Christina Mongillo. Christina, would you like to just share with us anything around updates? Christina is she actually has multifaceted, is helping support our organization in a number of ways. One of the most recent ways she's supporting Adoption Share is by being our family coordinator for all Georgia families that are participating in our Family Match program. But Christina also supports us on the private infant adoption side. So a lot of people don't realize that we have a network for private infant adoption and for families that want to adopt through private infant adoption in this country. And so Christina manages that whole network that we have available nationwide. So Christina, I don't know if you have any updates you'd like to share, and then you can go ahead and introduce our speaker. And if we have a code word for training certificate, you can do that as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. So good morning. So yeah, on the private side, if you're someone out there, hoping to adopt privately through domestic private adoption, definitely email me, and I would love to help you get started on what to do there. That would be Christina with a K, Christina at adoption-share.com. And here in Georgia, you already heard the update from Kimberly, but I have the absolute joy and privilege of working with families who are desiring to adopt through the foster care system and transitioning you over to a place where you can be approved and visible for caseworkers to see you and match you. So I'm excited to have that joy of doing that. The code word, my coworker is unable to be on this call, and she will be the one to provide you with a certificate for training. Our code word today is invitation. Invitation. So you can email Libby, Libby, at adoption-share.com, and she will get you a certificate for today's call. I'm excited about today's call. Today, our guests are husband and wife, Eric and Erin Laircy. Today, Erin and Eric, I'm super excited personally, but they have a passion for foster care. They themselves have fostered. They ran a ministry at their church. They opened a door to a foster care agency here in Augusta called Families for Families, and you can look them up. Families, the number 4, familiesforfamilies.cc. And this particular agency here in Augusta, Erin is the director of. They have 4 biological children who they said are equally invested and excited about the foster care journey. They both have welcomed 12 children into their home through foster care. And we've invited them to share today about their experiences, particularly as they give us some wisdom on how do we have that discussion about inviting our family, our children, our family in our home along on this ride. As I said, my family consists of, well, I didn't say this, but it consists of 8 children, 3 biological, 5 adopted, and we're about to have this discussion in opening our home again for foster/adoption. So I'm going to be taking lots of notes. How do we, engage them along on the ride? So welcome, Eric and Erin. I turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for letting us be here. Thank you, Christina and Thea. We are very excited. We have a huge passion for foster care, for the children that go unnoticed. And I'll just start by telling you a little bit about our story and how we became involved with foster care. About 2013, I was invited. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. We had 4 small children biologically, and I had a friend who invited me to go to lunch with her and did not tell me that it was a adoption agency that was trying to start a foster care ministry in Augusta. But when I got there, that's what I found out. It was a pastor's lunch. And basically anyone who had a passion for helping hurting children in our area. So my friend and I were there kind of representing our church. I didn't know that, but we were, and there were some other pastors and leaders from the Augusta area also at this luncheon. And I left that luncheon with a complete transformation about the way that I viewed my life, my home, and just the need that was so great for helping children that didn't have a parent. So in our case, it was foster care. And I left that meeting and came home very excited and told Eric all about what I had just learned and about the numbers of children that were in our area that needed moms and dads. And he had a different response to that news than I did. I could not imagine why he would not be on the same page with me, but we were definitely not on the same page. And I'll let him share that in a second. But through lots of prayer and lots of conversations and some research and talking to other people, I really had a strong sense of, I don't think that people don't care about these kids. I think that people don't know that the need is so great. So that just started a passion for me to tell people in my circle of friends, whether it was like kids' ball teams or my small group at church or, any little circle that I was involved in. I wanted to make sure that people knew that there was so many children in our backyard, basically, in our area that needed a place to go, and there was nowhere for them to go. So I started this passion knowing I had 4 small children at the time, like I said, and we were living in a 3-bedroom house. I knew that physically it was not wise for us to take that on personally, but like I said, I had this passion inside and I really just wanted people to know that the problem was out there. So we started a ministry at our church. We started spreading the news. Like I said, we partnered with another agency that was moving to Augusta. And we found very quickly that it was true, that people do care, and people can be awakened to the idea of foster care once they hear foster care or adoption, once they hear. I think when people think adoption, they think all international adoption, which there is a huge need for that also. And that's really what we think. We think of China, we think of Africa, but we don't frequently think that there's a kid that goes to my child's school, that's in foster care, or that there's a child that, is walking down the street that we drive past going to the grocery store, that needs a place to stay. So that was really what I wanted to bring to people's mind, is the local need for families to step up, and not just any family, but families who had a stable relationship, or single parents who were stable in their job and family and just connectivity to the community, but also just had a passion for helping other kids. So I'm going to let Eric talk about how it was for us to get on the same page, because like I said, we were definitely not on the same page.
So she has referenced these 4 young kids that we had. Let me tell you how young they were. We had a 6-year-old, 4-year-old twins, and a 3-year-old. And I come home from work. I was one of the pastors of a very fast growing church. We were very busy, living very busy lives. And I come home from work one day, and she had gone to this luncheon, and she says, hey, I think it was maybe a couple of days later, we had talked about the luncheon, and I knew this was kind of stirring in her. And she says, I really feel like we're supposed to foster. And my first reaction was, are you out of your mind? We are fostering. We got 4 kids upstairs right now. They've got our last name. Ain't nobody coming to get them. They call us mom and daddy. Ain't nobody giving us a check for them. We are their sole provider. Are you kidding? We're full. We don't have any capacity. We have no margin in our life for this. And, when you hear numbers like currently right now in our area, Richmond and Columbia County, the greater Augusta area here, over 430 kids are in foster care, with only about 60 families to take care of those 400 plus kids. When you hear numbers like that, a lot of times we can be moved by a number, but it's when you begin to see the faces and the names with those numbers and realize that these are kids that are just like ours, that deserve just as much of an opportunity as ours have, that God created with a purpose in his image for them to accomplish things in this world. And yet what a lot of times you see is just a repeated pattern of generational dysfunction. They're just repeating what they saw. So I would love to sit here and tell you that, it was just a day or two later. For us, it was a couple of years later. Like I said, we were very busy, but here's the truth. We're always going to be busy. It's just like you hear people say, well, we'll get married when, we'll get married when the time is right. Well, then we'll have kids when the time is right. Well, we just have to trust that God sees us, that he knows exactly where we are, that he's going to give us the capacity. He's going to expand us. I'll tell you, one of the biggest misnomers that's ever been spoken is that God doesn't give us more than we can handle. God absolutely gives us more than we can handle, because it's not about us. It's not about our capacity. It's about the things that we can accomplish when we lean into him, when we allow him to expand our capacity. And he showed me that even though I thought our capacity was full, that indeed it wasn't, that we had room in our home, and that we had to do something. We also did a little sermon series at our church. And the tagline from this sermon series was, we're going to do for some what we wish we could do for all. And that really ministered to me. That was really something that really moved me in the direction of us saying, yes, it's time for us to do this. Because when you hear numbers like 400 plus kids and 14,000 kids in the state of Georgia in foster care, when you hear numbers like that, the first thought that we think is, well, what possible impact, what possible difference could I make in a problem of that magnitude? And that's exactly what the enemy wants us to think. The enemy of our soul wants us to think that, so that we're really neutralized to the point that we're moved for a moment, and then we actually end up doing nothing because we're overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem. So this tagline of this sermon series we were doing at our church, we do for some what we wish we could do for all. Listen, I wish I could help all 14,000. I wish I could bring them all into my home and love them all and let them know that God created them for a purpose and that they absolutely can accomplish anything in this world that they want to. But I can't help all of them, but I can help some of them. So that was really what moved me to the point where we had to say yes, and we were going to do our part.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll say once, and it's probably the case that the families that are listening to us speak today have already come to that place, right? Like the husband and the wife, or the person has come to the place where they want to do something. They are making steps forward, whether you've already had children in your home or you are waiting to be matched with children to come into your home. So for us, the next step was, once he and I were on the same page and we were ready to move forward, was to make sure that we explained and had discussions with the other people that live in our house. So for us, that was our 4 biological kids. I also think there were important conversations that were had with our parents and our neighbors and, our friends that did life with us, that spent time with us, just so everyone's on the same page about moving forward, and that everyone is aware that bringing a child into your home or children into your home is, it paints a pretty picture, but it's not always pretty behind the scenes. And so there are things that you have to deal with. There are things that you learn. There are struggles that come up that you were not prepared for. And I think that it's important that the people that support you and the people that live with you are aware that it can be beautiful. It can be a beautiful picture, but it's not always going to be beautiful. And so getting all of us, for us, it was our family of 6, and having that conversation to just introduce the idea to our kids, that was very important to us. So I would say that the first thing that we did was to just have a conversation with them very generally and say, this is the way I worded it. There are boys and girls that you go to school with, that we pass in the grocery store or whatever that live around where we live, and their moms and dads cannot take care of them, can't take care of them forever, or can't take care of them right now. We don't really know, because we were doing foster care. We are doing foster care. So, sometimes those parents get the kids back and sometimes they move towards adoption. So with that being kind of broad, that's how we set it to our kids. There's boys and girls, and their parents cannot take care of them. They're sick. They need to get help. And while their parents are getting help, they need a mom and a dad to take care of them. Are you willing to share your mom and dad, to share your house, to share your car, your things with other boys and girls that need somewhere to stay, either temporarily or long term? And for us, and I know it's different in every household, but for us, every one of our kids was super excited and has been very, very excited, I guess is the word I'll use, has been very excited through the whole process. So we've had 12 kids, like Christina mentioned, that have come in and out of our home. We have not adopted from foster care. We had 3 kids. Our first placement was a sibling group of 3. And we brought them into our home. We thought it was going to be for 90 days, and it ended up being for 2 years. We got very attached to those kids, and my kids loved those kids. They still have a very special place in our heart. And that was a great time for us. And then those kids moved out of our house. We got another sibling group of 2. They stayed a short time. Now we have another sibling group of 2. We've had a couple of kids come in for respite, or come for a week, or come for 10 days, or, short spurts of time. But every time that we get a phone call from DFACS and something new is coming, and there's the chance of us getting new children in our home, all 4 of my kids act like it's Christmas morning. Like, they cannot wait. They're like, what time are they coming in? And what are they going to wear? And then let's go pick out this and that and the other. And can I go to the store with you and get a blanket? Or, they just have super embraced the foster care journey with us. And I honestly cannot imagine doing this without my biological kids' support. So I really feel like if there was encouragement that I could give to a prospective adoptive or foster parent, it is to get the people around you equally excited. And it's not that it's always easy. I mean, my kids fought with our foster kids like brothers and sisters, which to me, I kind of was in my room like, oh, this is kind of sweet, because they're like real brothers and sisters, they love each other and hate each other. But, obviously we don't want them to fight, but that just shows that they were feeling comfortable, like it was a home for them. So I'm not trying to make it sound like everything was always, rainbows and unicorns, but it definitely helps when the people that are around you and the people that live with you, or the people that spend time with you, are equally as invested. And I really feel like that our kids are equally invested. And then that has turned into, at different times, our kids have, foster care and adoption as part of what they want for themselves in the future. And that's really what we want. That's one of our goals, is to share our passion for foster care and adoption, so that other people will also do the same thing. So for the fact that it's our biological kids, that there's really nothing more that we could want for them, but for them to share in a passion that we have. But I know that that's not always the case. I know that, sometimes when you sit down and talk to your kids, it's not always going to be that they're completely on board. So I just want to we want to throw out some different suggestions and ideas of how to communicate to your kids, no matter what stage they're at. And like I said, I'm talking about biological kids right now, because that's who makes up our home, but it could also go towards, grandparents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, that kind of thing. So let's talk about some of the ways your kids could respond if it's not positive.
Yeah, and I just want to briefly dovetail that a little bit about our kids. Our kids are now, our oldest daughter is 13, our twin girls are 11, and our son is 10. So they've been on this journey for several years now. And I agree. I really couldn't imagine our current placement right now. One of the sibling group, the youngest is a 16-month-old little girl. And so we've tried a couple of different things with her sleeping arrangement. And she doesn't really sleep through the night all that well. And at some point, she has awakened everyone in our home at different points in the night. And they have all handled it. You know, if anybody else on the planet had awakened them this way, it would have been fisticuffs and arguing and fighting. But because it is this precious little girl that we have in our home, there's just an extra grace that I feel like God has given not only us, but our children in regards to this. So I could not imagine. I thought about it the other day, one of our daughters, that her night's sleep was cut short, and I was just hugging her the next morning and thanking her for her attitude. And I couldn't imagine had she looked at me and just said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm really tired of this. You know, this is getting old. You know, can we figure out something else? Can we get these kids out?" I mean, instead she goes, "Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'm glad they're here." And I just couldn't imagine if we were fighting that too. So, but what if you were? What if they were completely closed off? Just a couple of things we want to mention here. I guess the first thing you would need to do is to find out why. To make sure. A lot of times, you know, maybe they don't feel if a child is rejecting something new, change in any kind of way, that means something is feeling threatened in their world, right? Something's going to change. This is going to mess up what I've got going. And a lot of times, obviously, we know, and it's challenging our selflessness, right? To be selfless. So our selfishness will come out in moments like this. No, I don't want to give that up. That's mine. I don't want to do this. That's my time. This is my thing. No, I don't want to share this. So to really find out what it is, having those open lines of communication between you and your children. And, you know, if it doesn't exist prior to this, it's going to, you know, maybe this would bring about the opportunity to make that healthier also, but also just to allow their opinions and their thoughts, obviously, to be validated, to be heard, and then to guide them into changing their mind, into seeing a little bit different perspective, into appreciating the fact that they have what they have. Something we say around our home a good bit is just to remind our kids, hey, that's a first world problem you're talking about right now. I mean, the fact that, you know, there's nowhere for you to charge your iPad because all the outlets are filled up with something, and, you know, or who took my, you know, whatever. It's very much a first world problem that, and the point of that being is that we live in the best country in the world. And we have so many things at our disposal that many kids around the world, Aaron and I have both been on mission trips to third world countries multiple times. And we really want to take our kids there too, to give them this different perspective. But you don't have to really go to a third world country to see that there is depravity, to see that there are things and that you are very blessed in the life that you're living. So while we keep that open line of communication and leading them with patience into a place of just changing their perspective. So if they're very opposed, having those kind of conversations. How about if they're just hesitant, if they're a little scared, a little nervous about it, which is natural, that's normal, it's okay. And again, keeping that open line of communication, encouraging them to ask questions, listening to whatever fears they may have. A lot of times we know that fears are really rooted in things that aren't true. And it's okay. You know, they don't mean to, but as children, we know we just think wrong things sometimes. And then just to really infuse the situation with truth. Okay, I understand how you could feel that way, but let me tell you what it actually means for us if this happens. It doesn't mean that is going to happen. It's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that this many changes have to take place. There are going to be some changes, but it's going to be okay. So just to infuse truth with a lot of fear and misunderstandings that may happen, removing their anxieties, having calm conversations with them, take it slow, and then again, letting them be a part of the process. And I love, when we get the calls, and sometimes, an adult has to, because our kids, if they had it their way, don't know the word no. Every phone call we get, yes, we can take them. Yes, we can bring them on over. When can they be here? How quick can they come? And at some point we have to say, hey, this doesn't work for us right now. And then we just have to trust God has a place for them. But when we say yes, it is certainly a joyous time around. And then, for the ones that are just completely on board, because then you think, man, like I don't ever want it for them for it to wane off, or for a bad experience to really change the way they feel about it. So being realistic with them, making sure that you have time with them as well, not neglecting, having 4 biological kids, and then of course adding, a couple of other kids. You have to be very intentional to make sure that your children know that you see them, that you still continue to have your private time with them. I put our kids to bed every night, and I try to spend individual one-on-one time with each of them in their room, looking them in the eye, that they have my attention, that these extra things that have come into our home, these beautiful children that have come into our home, while these extra time eating things is what I was saying. These precious kids, that they are, it is taking up more of our time. There's no more hours in the day than there were before they came into our home. So Aaron and I just have to be intentional about how we spend our time. So all of that in an effort, again, just to make sure that our kids know that they are safe, that they are loved, and that we have the opportunity to share that love with kids that are in a tough spot.
Yeah. And then kind of shifting gears, some more just encouragement to all the families that are waiting for a placement, waiting to be matched. And these are just some things that not necessarily we do great, but things that I wish someone had told us going into it, or things that we have found to be really important. And the first thing is to look at, like Eric was talking about, putting the kids to bed. That's his purposeful time of looking them eye to eye and touching, a hug or a back scratch or something, just making contact with every person in your house and making that just a priority. And that goes for new kids and old kids, like kids who have been in your home for a long time and kids who have just arrived, is giving them a moment to say, how was your day? And then listening. That is super important. We have found that, to just make a contact with every person every day. Another idea, I guess, is to take the mundane things of life and make them also purposeful by taking one child with you to the grocery store, or taking a dentist appointment and turning it into, let's go grab a treat for you before I take you back to school, or just using those opportunities of the car line, or those places that you're sitting and waiting and annoyed, can commonly be wasted time. But if we use that time wisely, then that's kind of when Eric was talking about this, we have the same number of hours in the day, so we have to use those hours differently when we add more people into our life. Another thing that I have found to be super important is my calendar. I don't know what people did before Google Calendar. I think I'm kind of an organized person. I mean, I'm not like super on top of all the things, but with appointments and activities and sports and meetings and all the things that go on, I think that it's also important, and it has been important for our biological kids to not have to give up some of their extracurricular activities because we're adding children to our family, which just means I have to be really good at balancing. Okay, we can have therapy for this time frame because I have soccer practice at 5. So I have this window of time. or scheduling dentist and doctor's appointments purposefully. I know before I was a foster parent, I was one of those parents that would go or call and schedule an appointment and just take whatever they had available. Like, I'll take the first available. But now I'm very purposeful about looking at my calendar and saying, this day will work for me and this day will not work for me. And just making those appointments that you have to do, make them work for your schedule. And to keep as much of your life the same is beneficial to mom and dad. It's beneficial to any kids that are in the home. It's just being able to maintain the same pattern of life that everyone is used to is helpful. So if you're used to going to church every Sunday, continue that pattern. Or if you're used to doing book club every Thursday night, continuing to do those things, and for your kids to be able to continue to do their things. I think that's really important. Another thing is to allow yourself and your spouse a chance to recharge, whether that means this is often what I will do is when Eric gets home from work and the kids are kind of settled doing something, like, I'm getting in my car and going somewhere. I really don't have anywhere to go, but I'm just getting out of here, going by myself somewhere to be quiet. And sometimes it's just to the end of the street and turn the car off and just sit in peace. But that's what I need to recharge. Another thing that I like to do is, because he does bedtime, I go back to my room and that's my quiet time. All the kids are brushing their teeth and, putting on their pajamas, and Eric's going around to tuck them into their beds. And that's my off time. So I think it's very important that you're purposeful about taking care of yourself and giving yourself what you need, but also, giving your spouse time for that also. And then the last thing I just want to say is encouragement goes a long way. Encouragement with each other, encouragement with your biological kids, encouragement with adopted kids. It's that positive reinforcement that does so many things psychologically that seems like it would be so small. Like, how does that affect us that much? Kind words or a compliment or something like that, but it really does. So my final thought is just to keep encouraging the people in your household. Like, it is so helpful to me when you took baby sister outside to play so I could cook dinner, or thank you for hanging up your clothes without needing me to ask you again, or I really appreciate the fact that you buckled the car seat for your brother, or whatever. Any little, like, I see you, I know you're doing helpful things, and it really is making my life better. I think if we can, like I said a few minutes ago, if we can touch every person in our household or look them in the eyes every day, the same thing would be with words of encouragement. And that's just to say, you're doing a great job. You are a great big sister. You are a great dad, or I can't do this without you. Those kinds of reassuring things, I think, mentally, psychologically give the members of our family the energy that we need to keep doing it. This is working. I can do this. I am, capable of doing this. And the encouragement is just a really nice way to show that you love and appreciate the people around you. So that's my encouragement for foster, adoptive, temporary, permanent families. I know we all have different stories and different journeys moving forward, but I really just hope that you can take something from today and be able to use it moving forward. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I did want to say one more thing. So, as believers in Christ, which we are, and I realize everyone may be listening to this, maybe not expressing faith necessarily, but we are all called, even as, it's kind of the in thing, vogue thing to do right now, even to be humanitarian. to just engage in the battle that is taking place for the lives of other people, to just be better to our fellow human being, to our fellow mankind, to help people. And, there's a lot of different battles that you could be called into. You could be called into the battle for addicts, and participating and helping people in that world. There's lots of different ministries and support groups for people with addictions. You could be called into the life of prison, people in prison that are, incarcerated and feel no hope in there. There's lots of different places where there are lots of people that feel hopeless and that just need somebody to come alongside them and to give them hope. And for us, and for anyone that's listening to this call that has been called to adoption, then you have been called into the battle for the life of a child. And to me, there's no better battle to be called into. Now, this is the battle that God has called my wife and I to engage in, is that all of these kids that are, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the latest statistic is that 50% of children that age out of foster care without being adopted, 50%, 1 out of every 2, will either be homeless or incarcerated, really not having any hope, any chance of having a normal life. And so the opportunity to be called into this battle for the life of a child, to take, clearly there's 2 paths that this child's life could go down. One would not be good. One would be hopeless. One would be repeating the generational patterns of what they've seen and been exposed to and what they think is normal. And then to have the opportunity to bring that child into your home and to just simply show them a different way, to simply instill hope and infuse hope in someone that absolutely the enemy's plan for them is to feel hopeless and to know that they're not worth anything. And that battle to me is so precious. When I have the opportunity to look into these kids' eyes and to go, no, listen, you are absolutely worth everything. And you absolutely are going to have every chance to be everything you want to be. Let's dream a little bit. What do you want to be? What do you want to do when you grow up? What would you like to do? You can do that. So thank you for accepting this challenge of being a part of the life of a child. God bless you.
Thank you so much. I think in listening in on this, let me see if I can configure so it looks a little bit more interactive. Add pin. Okay, here we go. So it's like we're having a conversation, at least on the screen. So I think some questions that I just kind of came to mind. One, out of curiosity, the process, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter how great your agency is. At some point, things are going to, be frustrating. The process is going to be frustrating. There's going to be decisions that are made that are outside of your control that make no sense to any person with a logical brain, right? And so I think a question for you is, how do you guys sort of mediate that conversation when there are decisions that are being made that are frustrating, that make no sense, that you disagree with, that potentially you feel strongly, that bad things could potentially happen to the kids that you've just poured 2 years of your life into? How do you help, particularly for those older kids that are just more aware, not be the defender of the system, but how do you create a connection point between those two things without kind of losing their interest or getting them discouraged? And by that, I mean, like your kids, when you have these conversations as a family.
Yeah. I feel like it has always been very important to me. You know, we've talked about communication with your biological family, communication with adopted kids, communication with foster kids. And I definitely think that if you don't have good communication set up, even outside of that little circle, you know, your family circle, but then you have you know, the DFACS workers and the lawyers and the CASA and all the people that have a say-so in the life of these children that oftentimes do feel differently than I feel. But I think I have to remind myself that I'm not in charge of them. The state is in charge of them. And my responsibility, I think it's an expectation thing, honestly, because once you realize that you really don't have control, you're not losing very much. You know, like I know that my job is to have these kids and love them and give them a safe place and you know, introduce them to what a family looks like. And at the end of the day, if the state makes a decision that I don't agree with, I'm hoping that what I've done in that short period of time extends beyond. I hope that there's a relationship. You know, we had a very difficult respite situation come to our home, and it was just for one night. And there was, you know, she was very detached and struggling. She had run away from her previous foster home, and it was a very sad situation. And she came to our home for one night. And when I was driving her back to the DFACS office the following day, she and I got into a conversation, which was really the first conversation we had had since she had been in our home. And I wrote her a note telling her, you know, who I thought she was, who she could be, just encouraging her. And at the bottom of that note, I put my phone number and I just said, if you need anything, please call me. And she texted me a couple of weeks later, you know, no communication. I didn't have any way to get in touch with her, but, and she texted me and she just said, hey, how are you doing? You know, she didn't need anything. She just was reaching out. And you know, there's just something about that these kids, while they have such a hard shell and they have such a tough demeanor, a lot of them, the older kids, because they've been hurt and they've been, you know, traumatized, a lot of them, seen the really ugly parts of humanity. And that can't be healed overnight. That can't be healed in a month, in a year. But I think if we have the right mindset of knowing what it is that I am supposed to do. And for us doing foster care, what I'm supposed to do is temporary. So I have to keep that in mind and know that, you know, one day someone else will be their mom or take care of their guardian, take care of them. And I hope that what I'm doing in this time that I get with them lasts long term. So
I just wanted to briefly say, I feel like it's a teaching moment for your biological kids to really help them understand really how much of life we really are in control of. And we really understand that it's very little that we're actually in control of, and to deal with disappointment, you know, to be real about it. Hey, we're disappointed about this too. We wish this could have happened another way too. And just to help them deal with disappointment. You definitely have opportunities in this realm to deal with disappointment and help kids.
No shortage of that.
No.
Awesome. Kimberly, Christina, Michelle, do you guys have any questions?
Oh, I love some of the points, just reminding that they can be a part of things in the preparation, you know, our family, and picking out stuff and preparing the room. They have ownership there. And I feel, you know, we have done that ourselves. And I saw a huge heart opening, wider to receive children that came in when they were a part of the journey. And then I love just, you used a different phrase. We call it here, speak life, just to make sure that what you're saying words, and thank you for doing that and just speaking life-giving. We're great. I did have one question that came through one of our families. And I know you touched a little bit on it, but just real short was have you ever found the need to share with your children about a particular behavior that was about to enter your home so that they were in preparation of that particular behavior? Or do you wait to see if it arises up while they're in your home?
I think that's a great question. And I'll let Eric answer that too, because I do feel like he has more of a protection mindset over, our household. But for me, I was very open with our kids before we knew names and personality traits of the people that were coming in. We were very open with our kids about the fact that these kids that come into our home have not been taught like you've been taught. They probably don't respect their mom and dad like you respect your mom and dad. They probably have been taught to hit and kick, and that's how they get what they want. And they might have been taught to use words that we don't use in our home. And, I was very specific about these things that you might see. And if there was if I had foreknowledge of a specific behavior, like let's just, I think this is okay. Let's just throw out like sexual abuse. If I knew that someone that was coming into my home had been sexually abused, there are definitely conversations I'm having with my kids about, I want you to talk to me. I want you to come tell me if you hear or see, or if they say anything that you don't understand or that you think might be inappropriate. Because I think that we need to let our kids know that we expect a different behavior from them. I expect a different behavior from my biological kids because they have been with me for their whole life. I expect differently for a child who's been in my home for a couple of days. So, yes, I think lots of conversations would take place. I don't know if your question, Christina, specifically was about, because I do think that sometimes there can be a gray area about, do I tell my kid, my children in my home before this child comes in about all of the trauma they've experienced so that now they have a different opinion about this child? And I don't do that.
Yeah,
but
no, I tried to surmise or shorten their
okay.
lengthy, but I think it was more that, like, if it was they have a problem stealing, do you wait to see if it got stolen first, or do you kind of prep them that, hey, they had, so, but I think you touched upon it using a different example.
Yeah. Okay, good. Do you have anything?
I know, that was good.
I just want to thank you guys. You mentioned something a few minutes ago about planting that seed, and the young lady reaching back out to you. So often foster and adoptive parents, once a kid return home or an adoption disrupted, they feel upset. They're a little hurt that they didn't do as much as they could to instill that positive things within that child's life. But hearing that story of how the young lady just reached out to you out the blue, just to say, hey, it really means a difference. And despite how big that seed is, it was still planted in the kids' lives. So I love that you brought that point up.
Good.
And thank you guys for what you're doing down in the Augusta area.
Yeah. And Kimberly, as they were talking, I'm thinking we need them as a fro.
Right.
We need to include Families for Families. So we'll follow up with you guys. And I think there's definitely a way that we can incorporate your work in our pilot. And so we'd love to have just a follow-up conversation with you as you guys spread awareness. We have a new recruitment tool that helps you continue to track progress that families are making that interface with your organization. So you can follow them through recruitment, through formal acquisition into a local county office or a private contracted CPA that's doing safe home studies, and then even finding out which ones actually completed that process and have had a successful placement. So you can kind of stay on top of progress that way. And it helps us continue to funnel more families into one central pot for all of our county workers across the state. So thank you so much for what
Yep.
you're doing and for spending your afternoon with us. And then also, I guess just last thing, is there a website or something we can post to share information with our families where they can learn more?
Absolutely. Our website is families4families.cc, familiesforfamilies.cc. And that's our website. We have offices all over the state of Georgia. So anybody needs more information, you can find it there, or you can also contact me through the website too. So.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.